Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of On the Mark here on Westfield Community Programming, Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB. I'm Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer this morning, and we're back from our little summer vacations with an all-new season of On the Mark. One of the things we've talked about many times on this program is the amount of film that comes from Western Massachusetts. And we're proud today to talk about one of the films that has originated here. And later on in the broadcast, we'll get to talk with Diane Pearlman from the Berkshire Film and Media Collaborative, who can tell us a little bit about some of the other film projects that are originating here in Western Massachusetts. Not too long ago, I got the opportunity to watch a documentary, kind of a rough cut, called Dollies, which is the story of a group of women who, during the Vietnam War, joined the Red Cross as volunteers to go to Vietnam and work alongside the troops in various areas, kind of boosting morale and all of that. And they came back to the United States much changed after their experiences there. And this documentary chronicles several of them who returned to Vietnam and to the areas where they served a couple of years ago. And years after they had been there during the conflict in the late 1960s and early 1970s. And this documentary was made about them. And we've got several people from the documentary here today. And because this looks a little bit like Hollywood Squares, when I, mention your name and all of that, if you could just kind of wave sort of, I feel like I'm in the center square. But among the people we have today is Dorset Anderson, who is from the Cummington, Massachusetts area and is one of the Donut Dollies. We have Jim Gardner, who's a co-producer of the documentary. Dorset's son, Norm, was the director of this project. We have Jess Hill, who is a producer and formerly of the Stockbridge area, and Shuri Rankin, who is also a Donut Dolly. So good morning to all of you.
Morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. So when, just for chronological purposes, when did you start making the documentary? When was it filmed? And when will the public get to see it?
Oh, well, okay. Hi, Jim here. And I just want to say hi to Dorset. We had a little technical glitch, but there she is in all her glory in Cummington. The story goes back to 1968-69 when Dorset was a volunteer with the Red Cross through the Supplemental Recreation Activities Overseas program. She did a one-year tour in Vietnam. I'll let her fill that part in. But her son, Norm, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today, he, I guess, learned about the story around graduation of high school, thereabouts, into college. And so he discovered that his mom had this other life, if you want to call it, because she never had brought it up. And part of what he was starting to get into was filmmaking. So it goes back at least 20 plus years now. And I guess in telling her story, she said, hey, I think I've got some journals and memorabilia. And unfortunately, due to the harsh Hilltown weather in the winter, unfortunately, a shed they thought was going to be protecting all this, unfortunately, damaged quite a lot. So Norm filmed that, and at that moment, he knew. There's much more to this story.
So, how long did it take you to actually make the documentary? And has it been shown publicly? Will people be able to access it either at film festivals or at their cinemas or stream it?
Hello there. So great to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hello, everybody.
So we are still showing in some film festivals around the country. We'll be in Phoenix this weekend, and then a few others in October in the New York area, Pennsylvania. And then we're hoping that we have some way of distributing it by Christmas, let's say. By Thanksgiving is the goal, that there could be a DVD out, or there would be a way that you could stream it. And then as far as how long it took us to make it, so Norm started shooting about 20 years ago in different formats, different kinds of video formats and stuff. So let's say it's been a 7-year process though, since we went back to Vietnam with Dorset and shot, current interviews around the United States. And then all the post-production, the editing, it took us 7 years to get to where we are now.
Okay. Dorset, when you've obviously seen the product where it is at this point, are you happy with the presentation? Would you like to go back and do more with it? What was your reaction when you actually saw the documentary?
Did you say that to me?
Yes.
Dorset, okay. I hadn't heard that. I was very excited and very glad and very happy that we had, known so much about it and wanting to go so much about it. I'm not sure if I said the exact question you were asking, but we had such a good group of people, and we were so excited about being able to get together and listen to what the Donut Dollies could do and how they could do it and why they wanted to be there.
Sheree, you were Sheree, you were also a Donut Dolly. Were you featured in the film?
No, I'm not.
Yeah. What was your reaction to seeing this part of your life portrayed, years later? How do you feel the documentary represented the work that you did in Vietnam?
It represented it perfectly, and I'm thrilled that this is going to have we're going to have a history about all of us who served, and it was a great portrayal.
Yeah. It's interesting because earlier this summer, Berkshire Opera Festival, which is based in Great Barrington, did a contemporary opera called Glory Denied about an American soldier who was the longest held prisoner of war, who comes back from Vietnam. He's not greeted with warmth on his return, and he has a difficult time readjusting to the climate of the day back I guess he was released in the mid-1970s. And it was his story, the fact that he was not recognized, was not a hero at the time he was in Vietnam, serving on behalf of the country. The tenor of the nation had changed at that point. Do you feel that the Dollies who went, and they were all volunteers, do you feel that they got the recognition that they deserved subsequent to returning from Vietnam, or do you think this film will turn them into the heroines they deserve to be?
Who is that question directed toward?
Whomever you like.
Go ahead, Sheree.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I think that we didn't get any recognition. I don't know how many of us expected to get recognition. I think a big piece of how it felt for me was that I wasn't one of the guys. I wasn't doing the actual fighting, so no big deal. But actually, we had a lot of exposure to the war, actually every day, and we did some work that I think was useful to the guys most of the time. So, and for women's history, I think it's important to recognize women's contributions, and they don't usually get recognized enough. So I'm glad this is happening.
No, I totally agree with you. Dorset, what made you decide to become a Donut Dolly?
Well, I'll tell you what, I never really understood the wars, the war times. And when it came to Vietnam, and I had finished college, I got very, very interested in the fact of how could this be possible with all these men out there in Vietnam. And I was just inside my heart and my soul that I would like to be there and do something to help the veterans, the Vietnam, excuse me, the soldiers, get to see them and laugh with them and talk with them and make these wonderful little games that we used to do with them. And the men were so wonderful, and I felt so proud that I was able to be in Vietnam and see them smile, which they probably did a lot. But I was so glad to be able to maybe help and keep them laughing. We used to make great games for them and things like that. It was heartbreaking many times, but I really felt that it was so glad. I was so glad to be there with the men and maybe help keep their boosts up.
When you agreed to go or volunteered to go, did you realize what you were getting into, or when you got there, did you realize, oh my gosh, this wasn't what had been presented to me or what I had planned?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think she was talking to you.
Yeah.
No, to you.
Oh, to me. Okay.
Yeah, I was talking to you, Dorset.
Okay. When I graduated from St. Louis University, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a musical comedy star, but I hadn't gotten into that little venue. But I started hearing about the Vietnam War and the soldiers there, and I decided that I was going to go to the military. And I did go to a military base and said, I'd like to go. And they laughed at me because they said, well, you can't just go and be with the military group. But that's when they suggested that the Red Cross might be interested in us going down to see them and to see if they wanted American Red Cross social workers. And that's what we did, and that's what I wanted to do. It was 5 blocks from my St. Louis University, and they accepted me. And I couldn't have been more proud. I mean, it takes a while to get there and to be accepted, but the main thing was trying to keep the soldiers happy and funny, and going to visit them in their various units. We would make some very silly games and things for them. And it was wonderful to see them, to hear them, and to watch them smile, and to watch us smile. So
yeah,
it was just something I felt I had to do and wanted to.
Sheree, my next question is to you. What made you decide to become a donut dolly? And when you joined, was your experience different than what you imagined it might have been?
I decided to go to Vietnam for some of what Dorset said. I was confused about the war and what was going on. But the other big reason was my brother was over there. He was a Marine. He was a combat Marine. And he was my baby brother. And I just couldn't believe that he could go over and kill people. That's not how we were raised. And I was worried about him. So I was happy to have a way to do that, to go over and check on him. And I also wanted to understand what was going on. And I don't think anything prepared us for what we experienced. I mean, they trained us in Washington about developing these audience participation games. And they talked about decorum, no smoking, no drinking, no sex, and those kinds of things. But how does one prepare you for getting off a plane in the middle of the night and rushed under dark, and then rockets explode around you? I don't think there's a preparation for that. So I knew as much as I could know.
Sheree, did you go back to Vietnam along with Dorset, either with her or subsequent to that, which many of the Donut Dollies did during the course of the documentary?
Yes, I went back in 1990 with a group of veterans from the Veterans Restoration Project in California. And we went back, I was there for about 6 weeks, I think. And we helped the Vietnamese build a clinic outside of Hanoi.
Wonderful.
And then we traveled,
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And then we traveled after we finished the clinic. I should say, we interfered with their building it. We brought the money for the funding strapped to our bodies because it was still a boycott. We couldn't go into Vietnam legally then. And we just it was a great experience to work with the Vietnamese. Part of my goal in going back was I wanted to get to know them as people, not as enemy. And then after we finished the clinic, we hired an interpreter and a van, and we all went south to our various past duty stations. And that was a tremendous healing experience.
Now, both of you, Dorset and Sheree, both of you are residents of Western Massachusetts now. How did you get to Western Massachusetts?
For me, it was I got to Massachusetts from Florida because I got married to a guy from Massachusetts, and that marriage didn't last. But my current marriage is also a guy from Western Massachusetts. And I liked Western Massachusetts better than I liked Florida. So I've never gone back. And Western Mass, over the time of living in the Boston area, I came out here and I had friends that were out here and I loved it. So we decided to move at some point, 20 years ago, actually.
Yeah. And Dorset, how did you get to the Western Massachusetts area?
I'm a little foggy on that. I was so excited when I got home and I was, in West Virginia, seeing all my family and everything. But I did want to get on to being in a different place. I don't know why, really. But I went to Massachusetts and I came into this small little town of Cummington, Massachusetts, and found a wonderful gentleman who we got married and we came here and we just were very fine. I'm still in Cummington, Massachusetts on Trouble Street, P.O. Box 13. And I'm really sorry that it's so far away that I don't quite remember what drew me to Massachusetts. But when I was here, it was great. And I've been here ever since then. And I had wonderful stories with the soldiers that I did bump into. And people found out about the Donut Dollies. And I had lots of little meetings or groupings that we used to get together. And you get to talk back and forth.
Yeah. How many Donut Dollies were there, if you know, and how many are still around today? And do you all keep in touch?
Well, first of all, to begin with, there were 627, for all the years, 627 Donut Dollies, 3 that did not do, then it went down to 624. It was very, very, very upsetting when things like that happened.
If I can interject, the 3 she's talking about were 3 women who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Unfortunately, one woman fell off of a Jeep going at a low speed on a base. She hit her head, and that was that, unfortunately. Second woman had an exacerbation of what was probably an underlying medical condition. She passed, and the most tragic of all was a woman named Ginny. I'm gonna blank on her name. I do apologize, but anyways, Ginny lost her life at the hands of a soldier who got into her her bunk at night, and murdered her.
So of the remaining, how many are still living and in touch with each other? Is it all informal that you've all stayed together as a group, or is there a formal organization that alums can sort of be a part of?
Both are true.
Okay.
We went over in different years, and so like different classes, if you will. And generally, we were closer to the people that we went over with. Like Dorset was in the class before me, so I didn't meet her except through a mutual other Donut Dolly later, that when I moved to Western Mass. And so there's some of us that stayed in contact. Letters, phone calls, and reunions were big for a lot of years. And then there's an organization, the
ARCOA.
Yeah, thank you. That we can choose to belong to, which is for the Red Cross American Overseas Association. And we have newsletters and have reunions and that kind of stuff. So, and not everybody is involved.
Yeah. Do the donut dollies still exist with subsequent conflicts overseas, like the Gulf War or the war in Afghanistan, or because women got more involved in the armed forces and in other things, did the service that the donut dollies do was no longer necessary?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge anyway, we don't have women going over with the Red Cross in that way anymore.
Yeah.
Does
Okay.
anybody have?
Yeah,
Switching.
I don't realize that either. I was surprised.
Yeah. Switching back a little bit, Jess, you have some roots in Stockbridge, and Jim, I know that I learned about this film and documentary through the Berkshire Film and Media Collaborative. I'm on one of their steering committees, and we're always made aware of films that are out there or being made that have some kind of Western mass connection. Jim, how did you get involved in this project?
It's all because of Dorset. I think all roads lead back to Dorset, actually. But I many years ago, a lifetime ago, I was a volunteer and then a staff member at the National Music Center in Lenox, Massachusetts. And I was the first volunteer. I think Dorset was the second. She drove all the way down from Cummington to Lenox and said, "How can I help? I want to meet Dick Clark," because Dick Clark was our chairman of the board. So Dorset became just such an amazing asset. Her personality is coming through slightly today, but she is a ball of fire. She is so wonderful and so friendly. And I think that goes back to her Donut Dolly days. But yeah, I've known her since 1993. And that Christmas time, she invited her family, Big Norm, her husband, her late, unfortunately, husband, who's featured in the film, her son, Norm, who is our director, and also Tegan, who is her daughter, came down, and Norm would videotape or film our concerts, and Tegan would also be a camera operator as well. Norm ended up working there, and I think, Dorset, either you were volunteer worker, I don't know, but we were all one big happy family. That's how we got together.
Yes.
And Jess, how did you get involved in the project?
Well, talking about all roads lead to Dorset, she babysat for me when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, I guess, Dorset, right? Up until
Right.
I was 10 or so. So that's when we first met. And then Norm was born, after that. And when Norm came out here to Los Angeles after school, we both after school, we connected out here and stayed in touch over the years. And one day I saw him fooling around with some footage of Dorset, and I said, "What is that?" And he said, "Well, this is Mom, and she's a donut dolly." And I said, "What is that?" And that's how we started. When I really felt like now is the time to try to figure out how we can make this as a documentary, because I'm not alone in not knowing what who the donut dollies were. Like going back to one of your earlier questions, it really was an impetus for us to do this, is because nobody really knew, and they need to know. I mean, not even Ken Burns took 18 hours to talk about the Vietnam War on PBS and didn't touch on them. I mean, it's incredible. And they are the most wonderful example of humanity, the best of humanity, right? In what was at that time really the worst place you wanted to be on the planet. I mean, the worst place. And here they were, giving them their all. And now we can talk about PTSD, because we didn't know what it was at the time. They all suffered that undiagnosed for sure. And toxic exposure, like we touched on earlier too, Agent Orange. They went through so much. So here we are. I hope that we can get it out, and I hope we can stream it soon, and everybody can see it. As many people as possible can see us.
Well,
Thank you.
We're going to take We're going to take a very quick break here to acknowledge the underwriters that make programming like this possible. When we come back, we'll talk more about the documentary Donut Dollies with these wonderful people who are bringing some great stories to life and introducing a lot of people to a part of history that we're not aware of. You are either watching us on Westfield Community Programming Channel 15, listening to us on 89.5 FM WSKB. I'm Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. We're broadcasting from Studio 120, and we'll be right back after we acknowledge these underwriters.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest ACE dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rockies, rock solid service since 1926. On the web at rockies.com.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back to On the Mark, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. If you've missed a part of today's program or you want to share it with somebody else, it's archived on WSKB Community Radio's YouTube page. So please share it because I know a lot of people can't listen. They're driving to work or whatever. So all of our programs are archived. We're chatting with a great group of people from the upcoming documentary film Donut Dollies. All of them have Western Massachusetts backgrounds. And in the second half of this program, we'll be chatting with Diane Pearlman from the Berkshire Film and Media Collaborative to talk more about movie and movie making that comes from Western Massachusetts. It's a major part of our economy now, and the creative economy in Western Massachusetts, whether it's filmmakers, artists, musicians, dancers, singers, actors, and all of that make up a very important part of the economy here in Western Massachusetts, and one that people are taking note with. So, folks, where can people find out more about Donut Dollies? Is there a website? Is there a Facebook page or anything like that? Jim, can you give us a little handle on how to learn more?
Yes, absolutely. Well, the website is very simple, donutdollies.com. That's DONUTDOLLIES. And then on Facebook, just search by The Donut Dollies, same spelling.
What kind of reactions are you getting when people see the documentary? And I mean, you made a copy available to me, but it is making the rounds of film festivals. My first question is the reaction. And the second, are you continuing to fix it in any way based upon audience response, or is the cut that's out there now the final cut?
I guess I'll jump in. It is currently set in stone. So what you saw was the final version. It's, again, 5+ years worth of work that has gone into it. We've had some rough cut screenings with people from the industry as well as Donut Dollies and people from the community. And they provided us their own personal notes. And believe it or not, those notes counted, and we were able to fine-tune the story because, we wanted to make sure that it was told in the fullest extent possible without any bias or anything of the sort, just really present the story to the public.
Do you know if it's going to be shown at any of the Berkshire or Western Mass film festivals during the upcoming year?
Well, that is definitely our hope. We had a rough cut screening where we met Cherie up in the Ashfield Film Festival, and that was so well received. Dorset was there, of course, and I think there was like 300 people there, which was wonderful. Because of COVID, unfortunately, we had been accepted into a local film festival, the Berkshire International Film Festival, back in 2020. Unfortunately, moving forward into the 21 festival, they're going with the latest in film projects. But we're really hoping to be able to kind of join forces with them, because they do screenings around the calendar, to be able to do a screening locally. I mean, it would be wonderful at the Colonial or at the Mahaley or just any theater throughout Berkshire County and into Western Massachusetts, because not only these two women are donut dollies from Western Mass, there are a couple of others. And we're sure they would like to be part and take in, I guess, the accolades.
And they deserve the accolades. It's a wonderful film project, and I really want to thank you for allowing me to participate in seeing it early on. We're out of time today, but all best wishes to make sure that this film gets seen by as many people as possible, and we can all take pride in the fact that it's got Western Massachusetts roots. Thank you all for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to take another break to acknowledge underwriters. We'll be back. Our next guest is Diane Pearlman from the Berkshire Film and Media Collaborative. So while we take this break, go visit the Donut Dollies website and take a look at this wonderful film, and beg your local film festival or local independent movie theater to show it here in the area as soon as possible. We'll be right back.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley, with convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut. Visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes & Noble College Bookstore in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise, all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldstate.bncollege.com.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back, everyone, to On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Auerbach. Peter Coles is our chief engineer, and we get to spend a little time with Berkshire Film and Media Collaborative's Diane Pearlman. Good morning, Diane.
Good morning, Mark.
You know, you weren't here for the last half hour, but we had this incredible chat with the producers and the stars of Donut Dollies, which is a new documentary that I was introduced to thanks to Berkshire Film and Media Collaborative. And it has a lot of Western Massachusetts roots. The director is from Cummington, which is in the Hill Towns. One of the Donut Dollies was from Shelburne Falls. Another one was from Cummington. They were involved. They all knew each other from Lenox, Massachusetts. And the film is looking for its national distribution. It's been shown in a couple of film festivals around and about, but it definitely has a Western Massachusetts imprint. And Berkshire Film and Media Collaborative is one of the gateways for people to make movies and for people to work in movies and film here in Western Massachusetts. So how's your summer going?
It's been incredibly busy, believe it or not. Actually, we were very busy during the pandemic while everybody else was catching up on their television shows. My phone was ringing off the hook because everyone had to figure out how to put their galas online, how to reach their constituents, their donors, their customers. And so I think we actually kind of ventured into a new digital age where, people who had done their arts strictly as live performances were now doing them via Zoom and digitally. And we had to train our filmmakers how to because when you do a gala online, it's not live, right? You're making an hour film. So it was an incredible year of really learning for our organizations and our filmmakers. And now there's been this break and we've had a lot of filming here. We have an independent film coming in September, a short coming in October, a lot of people filming here. So we stay busy.
I know that you stayed busy, and it was not the traditional types of activities and programs that Berkshire Film and Media Collaborative has been known for. There were no networking meetings because COVID prevented that. Your annual Posh Picnic at Tanglewood was derailed because of COVID. But you launched two major programs this year that are totally new. One is, you can describe that, we'll go the first with the studios that are being built and developed on the grounds of Shakespeare and Company, which will probably be the most exciting film studio in Western Mass.
Yes, we're really thrilled. We just began a feasibility study to possibly build a film and education center called Kemble Street Studios on the ground of Shakespeare and Company at the north end of their Elaine Bernstein Theater. Right now it houses props. It's 100 by 200 square foot open space. We answered an RFP in I guess it was the fall of 2019, and the board accepted our proposal March 1st of 2020. So we had to sort of put it off for a year, but we were awarded a grant from the Massachusetts Cultural Council and Mass Development to do this feasibility study, which we matched. And we're excited to get that going. The studio will be a fully functional studio with a virtual stage and post-production facilities in terms of editing, sound design, sound mixing, color correction. But it will also be a learning facility. I sort of equated to a teaching hospital for film where there'll be students in every room, because we really feel that film and media is a vital industry and one that's growing, and we need Western Mass to be video literate, all of our companies, as well as our young people trained in this burgeoning industry.
Yeah, and the other, when you said young people, the other project that you're working on in conjunction with some other people really gives young people a chance to be a part of the media world. Tell me about that.
Right. Well, we were approached by Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation several months ago. They had noticed an organization that was in Northern Connecticut called the Civic Life Project. And Civic Life had done this incredible project right before the elections where they had young people make films about topics having to do with civics. And so Berkshire Taconic wanted to do that again, called us and the Civic Life Project, and we've partnered the three organizations to do something called the Youth Film Challenge. And this is for young people 14 to 24 to create short films up to 6 minutes about topics that are on their mind today. It's under sort of the umbrella of a larger program that Berkshire Taconic did called Bridging Divides, Healing Communities. So this is about inequities that kids are seeing in the country, in their counties, in their towns, in their schools, and how we can actually heal our communities and what we can do. And they can be on any topics, from inequities in the justice system, our education system, LGBTQ+, whatever is on their minds. And what's really exciting is we have free workshops for them. For kids that don't have phones, we would provide cameras for them. And there's a $2,000 prize for the winner, and we will be screening the winning films in 3 different venues. The only stipulation is that you have to either live or go to school in the Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation region, which is Berkshire County, Columbia County, part of Dutchess County, and part of Northern Connecticut. So there's a map to see if you fit in, but we're very excited about kids really using video to have a voice.
One of the things I've learned over the last couple of years when we developed this second program On the Mark here, we do a regular ongoing segment called What Young People Think. And I bring college students and occasionally high school students on to talk about what's on their minds. And I think that we need to listen to people that are high school and college age. They have a lot to contribute, and they have solid opinions that a lot of us tend to overlook when we're decision making. And I'm constantly amazed by the depth and the thought that some of these folks put into everyday things, whether it's coping with COVID or dealing with the climate or some of the other issues that we as adults are legislating without their opinions. And when they speak out, they're not heard. So I think this is a great opportunity for young people to really express themselves.
Right. And it doesn't just have to be a narrative film. They can make a commercial, they can do a music video, they can do spoken word and put it on film. We're really sort of open to any way they want to write a song, anything that will help them express their opinions about, as you said, important topics that are affecting them. And we need to listen to them. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, we should tell people that while you're listening to Diane and me just chatting away, if you want to learn more about any of this stuff, it's available at Berkshire Film and Media Collaborative's website, which is berkshirefilm.org. So you should go check it out. Or if you have a young person in your life that fits the qualifications to make this video, you should direct them there because it's a great opportunity for them. Diane, I mean, you had a whole series of screenwriting workshops in June with Marilyn Atlas, who was a Hollywood literary manager. She had been here earlier in the year, and some of the students on my What Young People Think project got a chance to participate in those screenwriting workshops, and we're just thrilled about the opportunity to do it and all of that. What are some of the other things you've got in mind for Berkshire Film in the upcoming year?
Oh, wow. Well, I thought those 2 projects I mentioned were pretty big. We were really thrilled. Marilyn is a Hollywood literary manager and producer, and we were able to do Zoom classes with her. And what was amazing was sometimes I think people in Western Mass feel that we're, not in the thick of everything because we're not in California or we're not in New York. And the truth is that you can be a screenwriter, you can do a film out here and still get it on a national or international level. And so to bring people like Marilyn to our community in Western Mass was amazing. They were able to pitch their projects. They learned about screenwriting. Coming up, I don't know, we're thinking about doing a networking event in the fall, but fingers crossed, we'll have to see.
Fingers crossed. I mean, you and I and a couple of our colleagues that we refer to as the Dream Team will definitely get a networking event over a meal or drink.
Absolutely.
I'm hoping this fall. In terms of film, I understand that people who film in Massachusetts, whether it's a commercial or whether it's a documentary or a feature film, can get tax credits from the state. And that was up. There was a lot of talk about that going away earlier this year. Is that project still available, and the Massachusetts Production Coalition and other groups able to make that a reality down the road?
Yes, I'm actually thrilled to announce that our film tax credit is now law in the state. We've been advocating for it for over 7 years, or almost as long as Berkshire Film and Media has been in existence. I actually had the opportunity to testify on the Hill a couple of times on behalf of Western Massachusetts. So yes, we have a very lucrative tax and competitive tax incentive program here. You only need to spend $50,000 in the state. They did revise the law that you need to film 75% of your project here. It was 50, it's now 75. But yes, the film tax credit was supposed to sunset in 2022, and it all sort of got pushed off, that discussion, because of COVID and frontline needs of so many organizations and people in the state. But it just was part of this legislative round, and the House voted 160-0 to get rid of the sunset, and then the Senate passed it, so it actually is now law in the state of Massachusetts. So we're thrilled. We really we have a great film office that Lisa Strout runs out of Boston, and New England Studios out in the eastern part of the state has been busy. I'm getting more calls, and I think we're just going to get more and more production here because now we have a permanent tax incentive program here.
Yeah, I mean, do you have any idea how many filmmakers and people associated with the film industry can now make their living and live and work here in Western Mass?
I don't know numbers exactly. I do know that I probably get almost a call a day or a call every other day from either someone who wants to film here or an organization that needs a recommendation of a filmmaker for a project they need to do. So I know that the filmmakers that are here are busy. They're very, they're working. I think the hope is that with Campbell Street Studios that we will bring more production here, especially on an international level. Part of the vision for the studio is to have filmmakers from around the world come here and do residencies to train people in Western Massachusetts. The mission of Campbell Street is to teach the craft of filmmaking and responsible media messaging. We need to sort of go back to the craft, because just because you can film on your phone doesn't mean you know how to tell a good story, you know how to do good lighting. And with social media playing the role that it is, we need to teach people how to responsibly message on all of the platforms. So I think that it's really important for us to teach the next generation. And then hopefully some of those people that learn may go back. They may, go out and come back. I'm finding a lot of people who grew up in the Berkshires are coming here to either purchase houses, moved away, or coming back, or they're coming to film their projects here, which is really exciting.
Yeah, if somebody's growing up here in school and they want to come here to go to school, are there any schools in Western Massachusetts that offer filmmaking that you're aware of?
There are courses at various colleges. I know Simon's Rock has a small department. Williams, it's under the English department. There isn't really the level of film instruction that you would get in New York or in Boston, let's say at an Emerson or an NYU, right? So that's part of the reason that we are excited about establishing Campbell Street Studios. There really isn't any post-production between those two cities. And I think that we are excited about partnering with our educational institutions to provide that state-of-the-art technology, because it's one thing. Sometimes I find young people go to film school, but they don't learn really everything about the business. They may know how to make a documentary, but they don't understand the business of filmmaking, right? It sounds very glamorous, but it's still a business, right? Or what happens if you're a production assistant on a film set? Who do you report to? What do you bring? What do you wear? I think that part of what we're looking to do at Campbell Street is also really teach people how to work in this industry, what that means.
Yeah, and that's very important. When people think about film in Western Massachusetts, it goes back into the 60s and 70s when Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf with Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton was filmed in parts of Northampton and Amherst, or this film, The Reincarnation of Peter Proud, which was filmed in Springfield and Westfield and Bradley Airport and up and down. And then The Judge and some of the others filmed in Shelburne Falls. What are some of the unique films that have come out of the Berkshires and Western Mass that people might not be aware were actually filmed here?
Oh, wow. well, Alice's Restaurant was done a long, long time ago. Daddy's Home 2 was done here. Mark Wahlberg and their whole crew came to Great Barrington. It was really interesting. It was a big Hollywood film, and it shot in Great Barrington that sort of made its way across the state. And yes, Labor Day and the Judge were shot in Shelburne Falls. A bunch of short films were shot here. I was lucky enough to co-produce Karen Allen, the actor, Indiana Jones girlfriend, or maybe wife, I guess. So Karen produced her first film a couple of years ago called A Tree, Rock, a Cloud, based on a Carson McCullers short story. And that was filmed in Sandusfield. We ended up, there was a young boy as the lead. We saw 350 young men and ended up casting Jackson Smith from Housatonic. And so that was really a Berkshire film in every respect. And that's going to be coming out on Amazon very soon. So we're very excited about that.
That's really, and there's also been television series that have filmed here as well, and documentaries.
Right. Castle Rock was filmed. Unfortunately, that's not going anymore. But yeah, I think as more and more production happens, Lisa Stroud in her office is very, very aware of bringing as much production to the western part of the state as possible. That's really exciting. I think the other thing that we're really looking to do, besides training our young people, is to diversify the film industry in our state and really bring people into the fold to do their projects and tell their stories from every walk of life, which is one of the things we're looking at the Youth Film Challenge is, just because Berkshire Film sends out an email, it may not get into all the crevices and all the different organizations. So we're really looking to get the word out to get more diverse voices telling their stories.
When you think about location filming, I mean, there's such a variety of location that somebody could film in Western Massachusetts if they wanted an urban industrial city. There's Westfield, there's Holyoke, Pittsfield in parts of it. If they want that stereotypical New England town setting, there's Stockbridge, there's the Commons in Longmeadow or Hadley and things like that. What about facilities? So this Kemble Street Studios, will this provide film? Are there other studios and places where people can settle in if they choose to film here?
At the moment, I mean, not really. There's a lot of location filming. The film that's coming in September to Pittsfield is using a house in Pittsfield as its main location. The short that's coming in October is based in Housatonic. So it's a lot of location based at this point. When Daddy's Home 2 came, they used a house in Great Barrington, but they had taken over a warehouse in Lee. So there are some spaces that people can film in. Actually, Doug Trumbull does have a studio space at his facility down in New Marlboro. So there are some spaces, but not really full studios at this point, which is why we're excited about getting Kemble Street Studios going. And quite frankly, if it was built yesterday, it would be full. So we're doing our best to get that going as soon as possible.
Are there a lot of ad agencies in Western Mass that film commercials here, or film companies that are doing commercial work here that is not like a documentary or a feature film?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. All along the Pioneer Valley and here in the Berkshires, there are small companies that are doing commercials. Some are local and some are national. I think a lot of organizations, especially Western Massachusetts organizations, are saying, oh, I don't really have to go to New York or Boston and hire a very expensive company. There are great companies in Western Massachusetts. So I'm finding that there is a lot of video work happening at our smaller companies in the region.
Now, I know you work 28 hours a day, but if somebody, a small business here or a corporation were listening, and they know they need video for their websites, for their social media platforms, or just because they need a television commercial or something like that, can you at Berkshire Film and Media collaborative connect them with filmmakers in the area or editors or soundtrack composers and things like that? Is there a way for people to learn more about the resources through Berkshire Film?
Sure. We are our own nonprofit organization, so I can absolutely recommend people, depending on, I have a filmmaker who called me from the Pioneer Valley needing a sound person. So I would recommend a sound person from the Pioneer Valley as opposed to somebody that lives in South County in the Berkshires. So yes, we are a resource. They can reach me at info or Diane at berkshirefilm.org. Happy to answer questions. On that note too, we do have a community film fund for our smaller nonprofits to make videos for their branding and marketing. It's a matching fund. Organizations can ask for up to $5,000. And we've given away quite a bit of money to our smaller nonprofit organizations that really video is the first thing that gets cut from their budget. So we're very excited to provide funds so they can make videos as well.
You've been living and working in the Berkshires for quite a while now. What keeps you here in the Berkshires? What makes this area so fertile for creativity?
Oh, wow. Well, I came here to work with Doug Trumbull in '92, so I've been here almost 30 years, but I'm not a native. My two sons are. I'm not sure I'll ever be a native. I think the reason I stayed is after working with Doug, I ran a visual effects studio, Mass Illusion, for 6 years, and I traveled all around the globe filming in Hungary and London, all over. And every time I came back here, I just felt like I could breathe. I kind of could sigh. And I think the quality of life here is exceptional. I know when I had the studio, a lot of times we had incredible technical issues on big films like The Matrix or What Dreams May Come. And we had a huge studio with 200 people, and all of a sudden 20 people were gone, like the tech crew or something. And I'd be like, where are they going? And they were like, they went on a hike to figure out how to do this, solve this problem. So I think there's something about being here where it's less competitive. You don't have other companies looking over your shoulder or picking you to go work on another project. And I think that just the quality of life and being able to solve technical problems in film, but also go on a hike with your dog and your friend or your partner or your spouse, it just makes for an incredible quality of life. And at one point when Mass Illusion moved to the West Coast, I got a job in San Francisco and I didn't go. And I just think, especially over the last 10 or 15 years, the ability to do your work from anywhere just makes Western Massachusetts an ideal place to live.
I'd have to agree with you on that. And I am constantly amazed at the number of film projects and arts projects that are coming out of Western Massachusetts that are making an impact somewhere else. I work primarily in theater, and the fact that Barrington Stage Company and Berkshire Theater Group can produce these new plays and new musicals that are going on to Broadway and to regional theaters around the country, or that Chester Theater or Wham Theater or Williamstown can produce theater that's seen everywhere, and that Jacob's Pillow can be such a center for international dance, or Tanglewood, a worldwide resource for music. It's all coming here, and we get to live and participate and work and play here. It's too cool.
It's very cool. I think you bring up a really good point, which is, part of the reason Campbell Street Studio came about was a conversation I had with Tina Packer 2 years ago. And she said, we haven't exploited film in the same way that we've exploited the other arts. And so I think, we're really looking for Campbell Street to come into the fold on the same level as those A-level cultural institutions. And we're just very excited about the possibility of having that kind of a place here where people can learn this industry.
Well, Diane, I hope you're going to come back later in the fall and tell us about many more movies that have chosen to come here. And maybe we can do a program and chat with some of the with some of the teens and young people who win some of the awards and maybe show some of their video as part of the program, because I think that this Youth Challenge is just a fantastic project.
Oh, that would be wonderful. I mean, I really think, we will have a professional group of judges, people in the industry judging these films. And so we're really looking to get the cream of the crop. And also, when we do these screenings, to have the kids talk about their films, like why they did it, what was their inspiration. And so I think that would be a great idea. The more exposure we can give to these films and these young people with their ideas would be wonderful.
We'll need to talk about that at a subsequent time, because it would be a great program for us to be able to host here.
Sounds great.
We're out of time today, Diane, but thanks so much for joining us. I hope I get to see you before fall sets in.
Absolutely.
And folks, if you missed a part of today's program or you want to catch it again, it's archived at WSKB Community Radio's YouTube page. This wraps up another On the Mark program here on Westville Community Programming Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB. Diane Pearlman has been our guest. Peter Coles is our chief engineer. I'm Mark Auerbach, and we'll see you next week with another new edition of On the Mark.
Every time they open the doors, as I stand in the lobby, little snatches of soundtrack come floating through the air. Those time-honored cinema phrases entertain me all day long. End of verse, beginning of song. I love a film cliche, because a film cliche is the best entertainment I know. A nice familiar phrase like, hey, why don't we put on a show? My kind of dialogue is, please don't shoot my dog, lest he couldn't have eaten those sheep. Then there's that deathless line, we mustn't, Charles, I'd only feel cheap. I love the faithless wife who takes her lover's life, but she's glad, 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 glad. And Colonel Fotheringay, who starts to shout one day that those drums are driving me mad, mad, mad. I love a line like, gee, why can't I make you see? I got music inside of me, Pa. Or when the witness says, the killer's name, Inspector, is, And how about,
oh, please, Judge, my Tony, he's a good boy.
I can't believe it. Why, these creatures have been extinct for millions of years.
Well, Tex, looks like them Apaches got us outnumbered. Wait a minute. Do you hear a bugle?
I'm no good for you, Steve. It took a lot of guys to get me the name Frisco, Kate. Oh.
Oh, please. Blackmail is